The Day Night China podcast has been running for nearly 3 years, and it wouldn't have been possible without Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, let me give you a rundown. Basically, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Here's how it works.
So Anchor lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today.
Then you can distribute your podcast to the most popular listening platforms, including Spotify, with a single tap. Anchor is also the only place you can publish video podcasts to Spotify.
With Anchor, creators can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions.
And best of all, Anchor is totally free.
Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
This podcast contains strong language and adult themes.
Date Night China explores life and love for better relationships in China. Every week, we hear from different guests and dive into dating, relationships, mental health, and how both expats and Chinese people connect with each other here in China.
Join the Date Night community through our podcast and events in Beijing and Shanghai, and catch up on all the latest stories on our official WeChat account.
Find our account on WeChat by searching Date Night China, no spaces, no capital letters. You can also join our WeChat group by adding Rachel, me, on WeChat. You can search Rachel Weiss 22, RACHEL WEISS 22.
And now for this week's episode.
So welcome back to another episode of Date Night China. Hayden and Kat join us this week to share about their relationship and being nesting partners, misconceptions of polyamory, and their relationship boundaries and communication when dating other people. So thank you guys both for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. Really good to be here.
Yeah, really good to be here.
Yeah, thanks guys. Nice to see you on the show.
Yeah. So to start out, can you just tell us about yourselves, where you're from, how long you've been in China, and also tell us about how long you've participated in a relationship together?
I guess I'll go first. So I'm from the United States, Arizona, raised there, and I've been in China for 9 years. Been interested in polyamorous types of relationships for going back about a decade, but been practicing for a bit over 3 years, give or take.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Kat. I'm from China. So I've been living my whole life in China. I think I've been into polyamorous type of like relationship for like almost 8-9 years now. But like most of the years that I've been practicing polyamorous relationship, I was being solo poly. So, and then I met Hayden, and then we started having this polyamorous relationship.
Yeah, an intentional version of that. Yeah.
So how did you guys meet? And also tell us, how did you get to now where you call yourselves nesting partners, right? Can you explain a bit about that?
We met on Tinder.
Yes,
We're
Tinder couple.
Yeah.
And did you in your Tinder bios, did you like put that out there already? Was it or was it like a aha or eureka moment when you meet up and you're talking about things and you're like, you know what, I'm into this lifestyle and I'm into this oh my god, me too. You know, how was it?
That's a great question. No, it wasn't really like that. So I was coming out of what I believe to be my last monogamous relationship, the last one I'll have in my life. But I said, I've never really dated around, so I'm going to be a slut. And I told Kat that, and she said that she was impressed by that.
Yeah.
That I was so honest about that.
Yeah.
And then, months later, when we decided to, I guess, have like a sort of fixed relationship, for lack of a better term, I asked, how do you feel about us being open? And what did you say?
Oh, that's not how I remember it though.
Oh, okay.
First of all, I saw him on Tinder. We were definitely not talking about open or polyamorous. Like I was doing that unconsciously, but I wasn't like knowing all these terms and everything. So we just like I wouldn't swipe right on him normally because with his appearance, he's not really my type.
He was too good looking. Is that what, that's what it
Goddamn
was?
right about that.
That's
Yes.
what it was.
True, totally
what it
true,
was.
totally true. But like, just one of his pictures, smile. Like that smile just really gets me. Reminded me of someone that I had a huge crush on years back, and then so I swiped right, and then we started chatting, and then I think that like the chat went really well, and then on our first or second date, and then we were talking about like, what do you we were sharing a lot of things, so like we were talking about like, oh, how do you feel about open relationships? Like I said, I think that I always have open relationship, and then Hayden told me that like he really wanted to try it. And then I was like, okay, cool. And then after we really like officially kind of have a fixed relationship, we started to really talk about it and make it official. That's how I remember.
I just want to say that when I first proposed an open relationship, your response was good, because if you tell me I can't sleep with anyone, I'll cheat on you.
Oh, that's also true.
That's laying the law down right there, right?
Yeah. Hey, boundaries are important, right?
You're like, okay,
Sure.
well, I know where I stand.
Yeah.
So, Kat, for you, you've had several years of doing open relationships or polyamorous relationships. How was that kind of experience for you from the beginning? Have you always been kind of interested in those kind of relationships?
I think I did it unconsciously, because like I feel like during that period of time, like 5-6 years, that I really just, I don't want to have a relationship. I don't want to have a stable relationship. I just really wanted to focus on my life, on my work and everything. So like, but I still want to date. I date a lot of people. Like I will have like dated like 3 men, 4 men, or even girls like in a week or something, different people. And then I just really enjoyed it because it felt like it's how I want my life to be. So like it's pretty unconsciously. And then later on, after we really learn about polyamorous, I find out that like it's actually a solo poly.
Okay. So
Yeah.
there's a difference between solo poly and then being a couple or being together as a unit and being poly.
Yeah, somewhat.
So, and what you're saying is that like you started with one belief about what you wanted or what you knew your life to be, but you know that evolved with the people that you met, and you met Hayden, and then that changed again. Even though you were so adamant when you met him, you were like, okay, you know, I need to like see other people, but that evolved again. Was that a surprise for it to like change?
Yeah, it was actually quite big of a surprise, and actually have a lot of mental pressures on me. It's like, oh shit, like do I really do this? Like do I really like, because for me, I was really against having relationship, like stable fixed relationship, because I think that is just like kind of like limits my freedom, and I am someone that really really needs freedom. Like it just freaks me out. But then that's Hayden. He make me feel like when I'm being with him, I can be 100% myself. So why not? Like we're together and having much more fun than when I'm alone. So let's be it.
Okay, so then Hayden, then like your side of it, when you were meeting Kat, where were you on this journey?
Yeah, I was just said, I'm going to be a slut. That's just what I want to do. So Kat was the first Tinder date of my life. And, you know, like on our second date, I told her like, hey, I'm going to be a slut, because I was worried that, you know, a wrench might be thrown into that. But, you know, right. She said that she thought it was impressive that I was honest about that. So that made me feel, okay, I can express this interest of mine. Then, you know, practicing it came later, like
Practicing what?
Practicing being open or polyamorous, right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Back then the term was more open, but then, you know, I found that book, The Ethical Slut, which is like the
that was a book.
Oh, it's amazing. I'll send you the PDF, brother. It's kind of like the guide, the original guidebook for polyamory, or at least the original super wildly popular one. And, you know, I was reading through that, and that's where I started to learn a lot of the new terms and a lot of different ways that people have open style relationships, and started seeing ones that I liked more. And I was like, well, okay, so polyamory specifically, as opposed to these other ones, is something that I want more. But that was also a bit scary. Like, I think we were both a little bit timid at first to actually go out and try to meet new people. For me, and I'll only speak for myself, but for me, I had been serial monogamist for a decade before that, right? And following these guidelines about how a relationship goes normally, or usually instead of normally, right? And so there was anxiety that came along with it, and there were fears.
Well, yeah, because it's all you've ever known. Like,
Right.
you know, you've invested in that in those 10 years. Okay, it's led you to this point, but it wasn't entirely unhappy, right? You might have ups and downs, but those ups were great, and the downs were, you know, were pretty shit, like any relationship. So you'd mark that as a general, you know, just life experience.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you have to kind of mark any experience that way ultimately, no matter how much you want to apply like an extra special meaning to the good ones, right? But yeah, I kind of got lost in my answer there.
No, I think that was really great.
So, but you read the book,
Yeah.
and then
So I read the book, and then I said, well, I want to be polyamorous. And then that was our first kind of disagreement about how it would go.
Oh yeah. Because for me, it's kind of like, I feel like my emotions and like my feelings are already hooked with Hayden. So at that period of time, I'm actually fine with opening our relationship. But I was like, oh, you want polyamorous, but that is different than open. Like,
so how is
open-
that open, or how's
Yeah.
that different?
Open is just, from my understanding, there's a lot of debates about it. But from my understanding, open, it just means that I'm going to date other people. I can have sex with other people. I can have date experience, sex experience with the other person. But there will be no emotional or romantic feelings involved. But which is polyamorous is more of like, you will be able to have the full experience with that person, or
So
multiple
love
people.
and connection
Yes.
explicitly included.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also you could make plans about it. You can make plans for your future with them as well. So like in the very beginning, I feel like it was kind of like a threat for our relationship.
that's really interesting for me, because, you know, on the face of it, and not knowing too much about it, and I'm obviously learning more through, you know, the time that we've been doing Day Night China, but the idea of like open relationship, and somebody, and you saying, okay, it's you know, I can have the date experience, and I can have the sex experience, and for that, the idea of that not bleeding into the romantic or the the amorous, like the love side of it, it seems like they are. It seems that the two ideas don't meet, because if you're doing those things and you do it regularly, then surely the matters of the heart then come into it, and I think that's like the hard thing to like get my head around initially hearing your story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had to do a lot of work with that. Like, at least from my experience in all of this, it's difficult not to get kind of postmodern about the whole thing, to be pretentious. But
No, get pretentious.
once you start to deconstruct the initial terms of relationships,
Yeah, let's deconstruct it.
yeah, then what are you left with, right? And so we got down to a point of like deconstructing what love means, deconstructing what special means, and for me, those were two specific ones that were the biggest hurdles to get through, and there were disagreements too that I remember. But I felt, okay, well, what is really different between loving Kat versus loving my buddy from college? And the difference didn't make a ton of sense anymore. Okay, well, then how are those relationships different? or special or unique, right? Well, my buddy from college doesn't want to have sex with me, so sex is not included in that relationship. And then it's like,
His
well,
loss.
if sex is just not included in that relationship, then sex, sex can't be the thing that defines a relationship. Love probably can't be the thing that defines a relationship. Those things may or may not be included in any relationship, right? And so that led me down to this idea of its choices and its personal choices. If Kat's not special, right? Which was a threatening conversation I remember to have. Then what would keep me having a relationship with Kat? And it's not just, now I'm not thinking about sex. Now I'm not thinking about love. Now I'm thinking about kind of more practical reasons why I enjoy, the nesting partner situation that we have now, which is, there's a trust that we have. There's a support system that we have for each other in terms of our life goals and work ethic. We're pretty much aligned on that. And so we don't really have, struggles in our relationship in that degree. But then there's also this liberty that Kat gives me that I cherish very much. And you wonder, like, okay, well, can anyone else give me those things too? Yeah, I would say anyone at any time can give that to anyone else. They can find those kinds of similar matches, right? So it's choices that, circling back to choices. I've chosen to invest here, and I've chosen to, don't know what else I would say to that, but yeah, I think invest is enough. I've chosen to invest here. I may choose to invest somewhere else at another time.
On a heart level, on a love level, because we've talked about, like, Kat, you went into this with like open, and these are the experiences that you want, and then Hayden's coming in with saying, like, but I want. Is it right to say more than that? Like, you don't just want open. You want. It feels like that's the level that we're going. Like, from a layman's perspective, it's like open, and then polyamory is you wanting those things, but deeper. You wanting love, or you wanting to be able to love somebody else, or have that experience of that profound sort of deep sort of connection.
I will
say, is that a right way to grade it?
Man, your listening skills are amazing. Yeah, so that's a really, really precise description of my experience. I would say, because there's debate about the differences between open and polyamory, but my interpretation, and everybody's free to have their own interpretation. There are no rules. We're making it up as we go along, right? But yeah, that was my feeling. I'm not satisfied with brief encounters, right? Sexual or otherwise. I like digging deeper. I like quality time and getting to know a person, and then feeling like I'm supporting a person and that they're supporting me. And again, it's not something that necessarily has to do with sex. But if I'm going out to date people, I don't want to just casually see them and then that's it. I find that, incredibly unfulfilling.
Which is, for me, it's a different story. I don't really need like support from other people, and I don't really dig into connections like this. It's not like I'm not interested in making connections. I am more of a flow. Like, I go with the flow. If the flow brings us to have more connection, deeper connection, let it be. But if not, I'm not gonna be the one that initiated. So I'm more of like, I enjoy being alone. I enjoy my free time. I love talking to myself, like, constantly in my mind and everything. And all of that just like makes me very complete. So when I am in need of something, for example, sex or like connections, skin to skin connections or something, it's just that I just go for it. And after I get what I want, I am okay with not digging deeper. Because I feel like sometimes when you're looking for having a connection with other people, that limits your choices or options a lot. So,
Yeah, it's cool to hear how both of you have come on your own journeys to kind of this point and being nesting partners together. So when you decided to get to that point and you are nesting partners and even getting married, firstly, how and why did you decide to get married then? And when you are dating, what are some rules and boundaries that you've set in the beginning of your relationship?
And also, wait, I just want to add something on there as well. Like, would you have made those choices at the same rate outside of China? Or did being in China accelerate some of those choices?
Wow, triple question. And those are
hope-
deep ones too.
I hope you remembered it in the right order.
Sir, they're already gone. I apologize.
We just threw a lot at
my
you.
attention span is that of a gnat. But
First question,
yeah,
I guess.
first question. Do you want to go first this time?
to get married, why do we choose to get married? And I could also answer Nathan's question. If we're not living in China, I will not get married. But that is the situation we were in. We are still in this situation. So we got married for practical reasons. Yeah.
But you're not alone in that. You know, there are so many couples that do that because, they are committed to each other. And, they're in it for the long haul. And it is just something that gets you through the fucking week.
Even in China, we know so many couples, especially like intercultural or expat couples, like they're like, this is just functional. It helps us with legality issues, intercultural things, if we're traveling, whatnot. It's very practical.
And also, if we're in China, but if any of his family, like, because Hayden's family used to live in China as well. So like, if that have not changed, I was still probably not gonna get married with Hayden. Because for me, like, one of the very practical reasons for that is, like, basically Hayden does not have any legal person that is actually with him right now in Beijing. So
he's
like
unsupervised?
yeah. So it's kind of like I just kind of like caught into the method of like, what if something happened? I don't even have a legit connections to do anything with.
It's before I moved to China, like getting married for such a practical reason would have been unreasonable to me. But living here and being with Rachel and having our experience and thinking if that ever got threatened, and I would want to do the traditional thing and meet the parents in person, ask for the hand in marriage, and do all those things. But if the idea of our relationship ever got threatened due to a technicality of the fact that we weren't legally married, I would do that in a heartbeat, because it's like this is how the country is, and if I need that little bit of paper to make our lives easier, I would totally do it. So it's something that sounds so clinical and cold if you don't understand the country that you're in, but once you're in it, it's like, yes, no, that makes perfect sense to me, and just go and do it because it is better, and that's how things are. Totally.
This is a very, very romantic proposal. So yeah, it is.
Actually, while we're here on I thought this would be the best time, Rachel.
Oh my god!
You can't see this, listeners, but I'm down on bended knee.
No, he's not.
He is so low on that knee.
Thank you.
It's impressive.
And it's hard because my 6-pack right now is really flexing. No,
wow.
No,
wow.
That's bad. No, it's bad. It's bad.
I love you, but please don't propose to me on the podcast.
Wouldn't that be romantic?
Well, actually, that would be pretty cool, actually.
Wouldn't that be romantic?
Yeah.
We set this up to talk about relationships, and we... Okay.
But where would you go
let
after
us be...
that?
Okay.
Right, where would you go after that? as podcast content.
Then we would like,
I feel
you know,
like
like
you've capped out, right?
then we'd tell like jokes. You know, like I don't know. We'd do like, you know, like
We turn to
bits.
mom and dad podcasters. We're like,
Yeah.
here you go. Like, I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know.
So back to you guys.
Yeah, right. Yes.
So tell
back to
us, yeah, you
COVID.
decided to get married.
COVID had a big thing to do with the practicalities of that. You
Yeah.
know, talking about me being now stuck. So like my parents moved away a couple months prior to COVID, and my brother who was here, he got stuck in COVID. And that, you know, watching that, I won't talk about his experience, but I was afraid that I would have a similar experience if one of us gets sick, right? Nobody in China has legal rights to the hospital for me, right? She's far away from home as well, still in the same country, but, you know, there's a similar fear there. And then what if someone from my home gets sick and I need to rush home really quickly? How am I going to get back? If I lose my work visa, you know, things are locked down. Would having a marriage license together increase my chances to get some sort of visa back to China? There were policies that were more lenient on marriages that way at the time. And so it was really more for that. But we really don't, we do not want the fact that we're married to be a defining trait of our relationship. So that term you used earlier, nesting partner, that's how we've come to settle on that. We prefer to use nesting partner because it signifies that really the commitment that we made to each other was all these practical reasons, right? It wasn't an undying forever love. That's not to say that there isn't love. It's just, you know, we don't need to be married to love each other. So yeah, those are those practical reasons. And then if I go to somebody and I say, hey, I'm married and I have a wife, and would you like to have a relationship with me? Is, I feel, a quite different proposal to, hey, I'm Hayden, I'm polyamorous. One of my relationships includes a marriage for practical reasons. So we use the term nesting partner. I might say I have a nesting partner, but I prefer to use that rather than wife. I do occasionally use wife, like, you know, there are some circumstances where you want to use, you know, short form
I'm sure it's just
words.
easier
It's a
just to
shortcut.
explain it when you don't want to explain it.
Yeah,
So in
sometimes-
depth.
Sometimes I'm like, I have a nesting partner, and then they're like, oh wow, what's that? And then I have to, oh, and then there's so many, there's such a range of emotions that could come, and then I have to explain a number of other factors, and that can get exhausting. So sometimes I use wife, just like, over, done, moving on.
But do you feel? I mean, do you feel like you're at peace with like the time? It's like code switching. You know, like in certain environments you might say wife, in other environments you'll say. Sorry, listeners, I just dropped my phone. But in like other environments,
You got tired of being on his knee.
Nesting partner. Like, is that tiring, or is that something that you just accept that is something that you have to do, both of you, because it is not widely? I mean, I didn't, before I met you two, I didn't know the term nesting partner. You know, but like when you say it, makes total sense. I know exactly what that embodies. And it's like, yeah, okay, I get that. And the more that you meet people that like embody that or like that practice that, you understand what that actually means. But is it tired? Is it tiring to code switch all the time?
You haven't spoken in a while. I don't want to hog it all.
What do you mean code switch?
Yeah, do you know I think what you're asking is like, does it get exhausting to have to explain our relationship?
Yeah, to say like, you know, this
And-
is my wife actually, and then other times
and
say
pick and
this-
choose when and where.
pick and choose when you can say what you actually want to say.
Yeah.
I it's actually fine, pretty fine with me. I think the close ones I have, like friends, families, and people that I actually care about, knows. So I don't really need to use the husband and wife terms. And for people that I don't really care, I use the husband and wife.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Mm.
Yeah,
Fair.
you know, it's pretty easy to categorize when and where I'm going to do it. In my personal life, I have no interest in hiding anything about myself, generally speaking. But at work, for example. You know, I had a couple experiences where I felt judged by some coworkers, or some coworkers shared with others that I was polyamorous without me knowing, and then that got around back to me, and then people were like, "Oh, hey, oh," and I experienced some of that even now, and so at this point, yeah, at work I have a wife, and I'm not gonna talk about my dating life or my
Sure.
any of those relationships. And the only reason I'll say a wife is just because, you know, people know. So if I suddenly say I don't have a, you know, if I suddenly say, no, I'm just Hayden, I'm solo, which is what I would prefer, right? Rather than say I am a member of a relationship, I would say I'm Hayden. I have relationships with others. It's a kind of pretentious difference, but it does, I believe, make all the difference. And there have also been times when I've, you know, said wife kind of offhandedly and been corrected for doing so. So, you know, that also happens.
But it sounds like you've had lots of conversations about that to decide and get to the point where you're both, okay, this is how we want to refer to each other and how we communicate with each other about ourselves to other people as well.
Sure. And had those conversations with other people. I have a couple friends who are probably like, yeah, of course, Hayden's on a podcast talking about polyamory right now.
Are they?
Not
those
some-
the friends?
hang on.
Are those the friends that are gonna listen?
You know what? Let me correct that, because they're rolling their eyes again. Not some friends, all of them.
Oh my god, we're gonna get that many listeners? Holy fuck!
Wow.
I didn't know we were gonna be inundated.
I'm
Oh my
so happy you
God.
think that I'm that popular.
Oh my gosh.
Excellent.
So tell us then, so you've kind of defined each other as nesting partners. How do you go about dating, and what kind of boundaries and rules do you have with that?
Very funny.
Should we start with the rules, how they started?
I would
yeah,
love to know
definitely.
how it started and how it
it's
is now.
going now.
Yeah.
That's what I would love.
Yeah. Do you wanna take it?
I my memory is shit. So sorry for that. Like, you can please help me remember some of them. I think the main rules is, like, in the very beginning of it, I have rules about no friends,
No mutual friends or friends.
no mutual friends.
Okay.
Like, friends you don't like. But at that point of our relationship, we basically know each other's friends.
Yeah. And there was
all.
also a second rule that said no solo friends either. There was another rule which was only one chance with a person. So we called it no repeat customers.
No repeat business.
So if you went on a date
Yeah.
or saw somebody, that would just be a
Yeah.
one-time thing.
Because in the beginning we were having the debate on the discussions about the polyamorous or open thing, and then I think that it will be, like, for me, more comfortable if he just opened up and not go with the poly like right away. So, like, we have the no repeat customers rule.
Yeah. We had no STDs and no babies that don't belong to us.
Okay.
So thankfully, you know, no STDs and no babies still, but that just meant, like, condoms with everyone.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think it's a separate rules now.
Well, the rules are going to change. So if we could, like, break it down, like, bullet list, no repeat business, no mutual friends, no babies or STDs that don't belong to us.
Use
no,
the condom.
Right. So you wear condoms. That's a nicer way to put it. I'm being a little gross, but and then we also had, so we have to communicate with each other. So we would have to, you know, talk about whether, you know, before and after. And we, you know, well, that rule kind of got changed the fastest, because it's like, yeah, but, like, sometimes you're just out, right? And something happens.
It just happens.
Are you gonna stop and be like, hey, I love that you're kissing me right now, but can I just call someone and ask them if it's okay if I kiss you? What? Now, I have done that, but not that exactly. But someone wanted to get a hotel, and that was the first time, and I was like, well. Or no, it wasn't the first time, but we weren't expecting it. We were out on a date, and she was like, "You want to get a hotel?" And I was like, "Yeah, do you mind if I call this person?"
You're like, pause.
But even by that time, it wasn't asking permission. It was just letting her know.
Sure.
And so that was the last rule, which was we have to make sure that the other is okay with it. And how's it going now? really the only rule is just communicate.
So
That's
so,
it, general.
so-
and then yeah, really, it's really just that.
So would you say, I don't know, because it sounds like, if on the face of it, you'd say, okay, you had rules that you started out on, okay, and then as time's gone on, those rules are not in effect anymore, and you've got like one just like general like comprehensive rule. So have you thrown out the rules, or have the rules evolved?
So yeah, a bit of both, right? Okay, so no repeat business. Well, that's, I was not interested in that at all. I want to have meaningful connections. I want to see a person for, as long as I can, right? So that one went pretty that one went pretty quick. The communication one was the fastest, where we started to realize once you broke it down, none of it made sense. There are too many contexts that could possibly happen. So just talk, be open, right? We actually went through a period where we defined what a lie constituted.
Wow. How long did that take?
That one again, pretty
fast.
quick, because this was
Pretty
the quickest one, right? Like, I think this
anything's not
conversation happened on the night that we came up with rules. Like, okay, what was that definition of a lie?
Oh, I think I'm sorry. I can't phrase like words by words. My memory is really shitty.
At this point, just like, you can't see this, but Hayden slipped a £10 note to Kat. I'm using British phrases. It's a bad joke. It's a bad joke.
But basically, it's just saying that like we define a lie is when you are trying to take away others' agency. So it doesn't matter like what your intention is. If you decided that you are going to hide something that you think that it's gonna affect their judgment or decision, that is considered as a lie, because you take away their agency of making their decision.
That's great.
For themselves, yeah.
That's great.
And then if that's true, then also, like, I can lie about myself, even to Kat, right? We would both prefer that we're not lying, but Kat, she has a right to the privacy of what's in her head, right? So she can choose if she wants to tell me something. We did kind of come to an agreement that it's just kind of like, it's rather than lie, it would be better like, I don't want to talk about this right now. And okay, now it's a boundary, and it's something that I can respect, right? Oh, she doesn't want to talk about it. If she wants to later, she will. If she doesn't, because I have no right to it, well, okay.
I don't know, Rach, I think a lot of couples would identify with that, even if they're not open or polyamory or anything like that. But like the idea of like benching something, it's like, I'm not ready to speak about this issue right now, because like we've been in situations where one of us might want to talk about something and the other is not, and that generally leads in disaster, or it doesn't, it's not the best time. But when we're both ready to talk about something, that is the most productive that we are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think what you're talking about, it's like all these boundaries, rules that you set with each other. It's depending on you and that other person and how you choose to set those boundaries, because it's what's going to make you work and communicate better as as whatever your relationship is. Yeah.
I think no babies is probably one that's changed. I don't think either of us, particularly wants to have babies, but we've had discussions about like minds change, and it's totally possible, feasible even, that one or the other of us, maybe me slightly more likely, would have a baby with someone else.
Yeah, not only about that, because with the baby situation, I think it's not fair for us.
Oh wow.
Because if I am the one got pregnant with someone else's baby, I have the right to make a decision if I wanted to keep it or not, and how it's gonna affect our relationship. But when he makes another person pregnant, it's not up to him to decide if they're gonna keep the baby or
Now
not.
it's up to her.
It's up to the other person. If the other person decided to keep the baby, it's gonna affect our relationship.
So is that been something that you've been talking about recently?
No.
A year ago or something.
Maybe about a year ago,
So
we had some of these conversations.
So the extent of your the extent of practicing polyamory for you, Hayden, like it goes to like if you meet somebody and you find the connection and that happens and you want and you both of both of you and said partner are like, this is, we want a baby, or like I want a baby and you want a baby with them. That is a part of it. That's part of your whole philosophy.
I'd say it's not necessarily on the table at the moment, but it
it's
has to be. If I'm going to be
it's
consistent,
not off the table.
If I'm going to be consistent in the values, it has to be something that can happen.
But is it at the sake of those values? Like, is it right now because it's academic, so it's easier to say, well, if I'm going to be true to my values, then if that scenario happened, then I would be fine with it. Is that academic right now, or is it actually how it would play out? It's hard to say.
Great fucking question, by the way. And thanks for calling me on that, because it is so much easier to talk about this theoretically than it is to experience it and work through complicated and diverse emotions that are happening at the same time. Sometimes experiencing cognitive dissonance with all of that. I do think it's fair to say that within the last year, there have been, talks about the possibility of living with someone else for a long term. It's totally on the table.
Yeah.
I think that would hurt. But, that's a bridge to cross when you get there. I can't stop Kat from loving someone else any more than anyone can stop anyone from loving another person. And I wouldn't want to, right? If she chooses to go, there will be pain, but I can't stop her.
When I hear like what you guys have been through and what you guys discuss and those arguments, it's the one word that keeps coming up in my mind is bravery.
I'm just an idiot who has no idea what he's doing.
No, but
and wants to.
No, but it is though. Like it is like to be in each other's lives and to commit and to say be a nesting partner and to work all that, to go through, to wade through all of that noise, and then get to there, and then still have, like you've just mentioned right now, futures that you don't know that are gonna happen, that could happen. And I think about, well, what happens if I get, like, if I'm with somebody and they want to have a baby, or my partner wants to move in with somebody else, and that is a thing. You're just constantly going through moments to test your bravery about how much you love each other, and it's just bravery, like it's just going into it and seeing how you fare, and not knowing, because you've not, like, because it sounds like a lot of couples that go through this, it's not a blueprint that you can just copy. We couldn't just copy what you guys do and then say, okay, that'll work for us.
I think one of the things that you just mentioned is actually a big part of, like, a big foundation element of our relationship, is compersion. So I genuinely feel happy if Hayden is happy, no matter what.
Compersion is the opposite of jealousy.
We mentioned this in season 2, episode 8, when we talked to somebody about ethical non-monogamy. So if you're listening right now and you want to go back, we spoke to Osaka, who was giving his arguments or his discussion about that, and he talked about compersion.
Yeah. So we have huge compersion to each other.
And that's not to say that jealousy never happens. I got so uncomfortable just now being called brave, because it's just like, I want the thing, I'm gonna be greedy and go and get it. I don't call that brave.
It feels brave to me.
Well, okay.
Because you're putting everything. You're putting it out there.
Well, I guess, but it's me, right? Like, that bravery to do something, if it's brave to do something that I want, it could, and it has resulted in pain for someone who it was not me, and also pain for myself, right? Like, I don't know. And then the other thing is, you talked about, like, that we're constantly testing the measurement of our love. I just want to add also testing our measurement for our love for others. Because we're not the only people that we love. And so there's other people, which I guess in the context of what I just said sounds like a humble brag, and now I'm overthinking because I'm uncomfortable.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. No, and I only said that because I was trying to put myself, because I've not got that mindset. I'm not there where you guys are, and I don't believe. Well, you guys. That's why I'm so excited to have you guys on the show. But like, I'm not there where you guys are. But like, I'm trying to put myself in your mindset and what you must go through to get from the moment you met on Tinder, and then you go through all the stages, and then to finally get to this place. To me, if hearing that as an outsider, it sounds brave to me.
Here, let me flip it. So, have you two not had experiences that took a bit of bravery together? I mean, like, I do not think that I could function running a podcast with Kat. Like, I would lose my mind.
I tell you, the first, for me, the first moment of bravery for me, and it was risking. I felt at the time it was risking everything. Was when me and Rachel had been friends for such a long time, and we were already doing the podcast, and then I realized that I was in love with her, and that was, I think that was the last time that I was exceptionally brave, was to commit to that feeling rather than shy away from it or like shut it down. It was like realizing that that's how I actually felt, and I had to jeopardize an amazing friendship, and also a podcast. Sounds trivial. We started something when we did this. Like, when we started Day Night China, nobody was talking about relationships. Nobody was talking about love in China. Nobody was talking about the problems that people have finding a connection. And we tapped into a niche, and we started that together. And then 8 months in, I was jeopardizing all of that, hoping that actually this would work out. So that was the last time that I was like truly brave, and after I made the leap and everything, it was fine. Then everything got a lot easier.
I kind of understand that, but like, for me, I always have it in my mind that I'm not jeopardizing anything. It's my life. I am not responsible to Hayden's life. I'm not responsible.
Choices.
Yes, choices or whatsoever. Like, I'm not responsible on anyone else's experience, life, or anything. So I'm only being honest with myself. What do I want? What do I need? What makes me happy? And I'm doing all those things. If I'm doing something that makes me happy, and in the meanwhile, it makes Hayden happy, bonus, awesome. That would be great. But if what makes me happy doesn't make him happy, I'm okay with that. I am okay with Hayden just come home one day and tell me that, sorry, Kat, I don't want this anymore. Okay, I would be fine with that. I have no fear of losing anyone in my life.
Oh, wow. I'm terrified of losing Rich.
But I think that's what it comes down to, is like, every individual looking at yourself, what you were talking about with agency, and like what do you actually want? What do you need? What and how is that affecting this relationship with this other person? And I think you guys have really figured out what you like for you. And like you said, it could change, and anything could change. And as long as you're having this open communication, you know.
Yeah, most of that is totally accurate. But I would amend just the tense of having figured it out. We're working on it. You know, it's a work in progress. Feelings have been hurt and mistakes have been made, and learning has developed because of that. And I don't think that we're done by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's still going. It's continuing. Can you tell us a little bit then about your relationships with other people, kind of how you engage with that? What has it been like when you do meet other people? How do you talk to them about it when you meet online or on Tinder? Are you open about it on your bios? Like, how do you tell other people about it? And what has the reception been?
Oh, right. There's one of the rules, addition rules that we forgot to mention. Is actually we have a rule about we can't lie to each other's, but we also cannot lie to the other person. Yeah. Like with that situation, with our situation. So you can't just go on Tinder. So we have it all written on our bios. So basically it's like the person needs to know that you are meeting a person that in situations like this. Yeah. So like, yeah, this is like a rule that we have, and we forgot to mention.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's important to say that, like, you know, we can establish rules with any other person, right? If those rules would affect Kat, then I would let Kat know, and then have her make her decision whether or not she wants to do it, right?
Has there ever been any stories where people have, like, you've put that out there, but people have ignored it, or they've not really truly appreciated what you've written?
Well, I've gone through many iterations of my profile and how I describe my situation. At the moment, my profile just says I'm polyamorous. Feel free to ask me about it. And if people have not, and it looks like we might hang out, then I'll say, hey, just a heads up, you haven't asked any questions yet. It says it's on my profile. Let's have a discussion about it. I did this just the other night, actually. And that person said, well, okay, that's not for me, but I would like to, meet you as friends. Can we still meet as friends? And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do that. I don't, romance and sex are not the driving forces necessarily of why I'm meeting people.
On the other hand, when I remember when I changed my bios on Tinder and Bumble, it was shock. We were together. Hayden and I were together. And then I changed to, at that time, I was feeling more open. So I put down, so by the way, like just like on my introductions, and then like FYI, I'm in an open relationship. And then once that changed profile, so on Tinder, like at that time, they have this like function of like if the people that you match already change the profile, you will get an update of things. Like you can see what they changed. You can see their new profile. Like you have a notification on that. And then Hayden immediately see, what did you see?
Yeah, the Kat's it was just like within 5 minutes, all these guys that she'd matched with previously and stopped talking to. Hey.
Oh my gosh.
Hey.
Oh wow.
Sliding into her DMs. Yeah. And then for me, I think my matches went down. They decreased. And I still get people who have not read my profile. It's right there at the top. But fine, some people are just like scrolling and
Well, it's obviously quite different. It feels like it's a different persona from a guy saying that he's in a polyamorous relationship to a girl saying that she's in an open relationship. It's a no-brainer to work out what people are thinking.
Yeah, my perception has always been a woman who does that is empowering. And a man who does that is a lecher, or the man who lets his woman go out, he's a cuck, right? And so I think that there's more negatives that I receive for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And also like basically if a girl, like I think that is very general kind of like stereotype when you're seeing a girl saying that she's a poly or she's in an open relationship. Guys just go crazy about it because they feel like it's wow, no attach. That's like the best thing could happen
Sure, yeah.
on the dating app nowadays. So like, and I think like Hayden will probably receive a lot negative like thinking of like he must be he must be lying. He must be trying to cheat.
I feel
on
like a
his-
lot of women
yeah.
would have that assumption
Yeah.
or think, oh, maybe he's just using that, but he's in a real,
Yeah.
It's happened. Yeah. I've been called names. I've been called cheater. I've been called liar. All through Bumble, so it doesn't affect me too much, right?
Have you ever had any people say, oh, I actually want to meet her, your partner, and I want to talk to her then. I want to actually confirm this is really real.
No one has done it that way.
Okay.
There have been a couple of people who said, I would like to meet Kat.
Okay.
Just
but
out
more
of
as a
interest,
nice,
out of interest of meeting Kat. Like I know one person I think said that Kat is a part of my life, and so she would like to know the parts of my life. And then
Do you guys usually then introduce people to each other? I think you mentioned a little bit before, like it depends on how you feel.
For me, it depends on how I feel. Because like I genuinely want to meet people that I'm interested in, like from the story that Hayden shared to me. But I'm not interested, like at some of the story is just not very interesting for me. So like I'm gonna pass that. Like I want my time like to be doing things that I'm interested in.
Whereas I want to know all of them. It doesn't happen that way. It's Kat's decision whether or not she wants to introduce someone to me. But I am just like, yeah, let's do that. Let's meet these people. I want to know who's in Kat's life.
And also, it's up to the other person's decision if he is okay to meet you.
100%.
So has that happened?
Meeting people?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say a couple times for each of us. 3 times, 2 or 3 times for each of us. Yeah. And it doesn't always happen. And some people are very explicit, like, I'm not interested. And I say, cool. I generally open the subject as like, hey, it's an option. You do not have to take it, but you are welcome to if you want to.
And has that happened with any current relationships?
Yeah. With my other partner. With my other partner, we.
So you have another partner?
Yeah, I do have a other partner right now. So basically, Hayden and him met, just the 2 of them, and then we also invited him to some of our house parties. So he not only met Hayden, but also met some of our mutual friends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that like?
For me, the first time, a little bit nervous. I was nervous. Then I was able to get over that, and I was able to make a connection. I don't want to speak too much out of term because there's that other person, who had that experience with me, right? Her partner. But I came away from it feeling really good. And safe and liking the person very much.
Because I remember you both kind of mentioned the same thing to me, is like you guys are very happy about seeing how Hayden and my partner care and love about me. So like, yeah, I think that was one thing that you both mentioned to me.
There's a term for it, which is metamour. So
Metamour.
outer
what's a
outer
metamour?
love. A metamour is just the partner of your partner. It's
So a paramour. You 2 are paramours. No. Is paramour.
I
metamour-
suppose I've never used that term, but I suppose it qualifies. there are a lot of terms in polyamory such that it can feel a bit culty, some of these terms. And also there's such a rainbow of relationship types that people who consider themselves polyamorous have.
Do you get a badge? No badges.
We should
Get a
get some
badge.
stinking badges.
You
We
should
should get
get
some stinking
some. You
badges.
should get some stinking badges.
No, so metamour, there's this thing with metamour that like maybe there's a responsibility that comes with it, which we kind of reject, because I don't want anyone that I'm dating to feel like she's dating me and Kat. I want them to feel like they're dating me, and I want Kat's partners to feel like I am not imposing my will on their relationship with her at all.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's not always easy to do. And especially if we have a certificate of marriage together,
And especially when we live together.
and we're nesting partners, right? It is probably impossible to avoid to some degree. Anyone I date would probably have to at some point understand that for the time being, I have made a commitment to this practical agreement, and that's my intention. But the only thing that I can do then is say that's my choice. That's not Kat. I'm not coming to another person and saying, well, Kat says this. Having said that, I have done that, and it caused pain, and that's a lesson I had to learn. But like, yeah, just they're not dating us. They're dating one person, and there should be a right to that type of relationship. You see how easily like a point like that, you start to think, do we have to live together forever? Are we locked into this? Is it ethical for us to be locked into this? Do we want to be locked into this agreement?
No.
And the answers to all those questions, no.
So at time, so if you're a pretty girl, and if you run into someone called Hayden on Tinder or Bumble and says he's polyamorous, trust him. He's not cheating on me. He's not lying to me. Swipe right.
And if you're a guy and you find Kat on Bumble, set your Bumble settings to men and women and find me and match with me. Let's be friends.
Let's just meet each other. I just want to hang out, okay? Let's hang out. Well, you guys, it's been really awesome to talk to you tonight. I think the last hour has just kind of flown by. But kind of as a last question, have you found other communities or people who you can kind of share these experiences? I mean, outside of partners and dating, like people who have also engaged in polyamory, open relationships, things like that. Have you found and connected with people who kind of understand these kind of experiences and relationships?
Yeah, for sure. We have a number of friends now that are solo poly or in a poly with relationships, and they're all different. And I feel that there is a supportive aspect to that makes me feel like here's a person I can talk to who, it's not that they're, some people understand what I'm going through, but there are those who have had the experiences and can give wisdom to what we might be going through at the moment. It's different to have lived it versus someone who can empathize with something I'm going through. They're both valuable, just different,
Yeah. It's very funny. Like we found those community and friends together, but also it's also very funny that like for some of my friends, I remember a girlfriend told me that like knows that like I'm having a polyamorous relationship, and then she was like, oh, I'm so happy for you, but please don't tell my husband, because then my husband will not let me hang out with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like he'll think, oh, she's like this
She'll be
bad
corrupted.
influence.
She'll be
Yeah.
Oh my
for
gosh.
sure.
Oh no.
Wow.
Mm.
That's just a funny story.
Yeah. I have had friends express worry,
Oh,
and I've had friends grow out of that worry, and you know, they're monogamous and they're like, yeah, but this seems to be working, and so now we're advocates for it or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
there's a gamut of reactions that people have.
I think we talked about this before. Also, like knowing like there's one thing to know about it theoretically, and then you're like, oh, I don't know. I have all these worries and fears for my friend. Is that going to work? Are they going to be okay? How is that going to work? But then when you actually see it and you see how these people work together and how this works for them, they actually can see, oh, he's so happy. They're individually happy. They make this work together. This is so great for them.
yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Totally.
There's definitely been some of that. I don't think that anybody who knows us, you know, has judged us or even tried to really talk us out of it. Man, not that I can remember.
No, I don't think
I've
so.
I've experienced a bit of that at work. You know, some sharing that made me feel judged.
The judgment normally comes from strangers. Like strangers from Tinders and Bumbles, and I had matched with a person, and he's like a psychologist, and then he was trying to tell me all of this, like, oh, if you're having a polyamorous relationship and you don't if you don't have jealousy, that only means that you don't love him.
What?
And I would like him to change his Bumble profile to men and women so he can match with me, so I can have the argument with him that I wasn't able to have because I never met him.
Yeah.
It's like, open up your profiles, okay, people? I need to meet you. That's crazy, though. So this guy was like trying to like analyze you, though, or try to explain and use reason or science.
He would basically say you use the philosophy or the science that he learned and then just puts it on me and saying that like that means you don't love him.
But anybody with like, you know, like half a mind can work out that's only coming from fear and just small-mindedness, right? You know what I mean?
Also,
it has to be, you know, to want to enforce it on somebody else. You know, it's okay to be against it, right? But like to then to go about and tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah, it's not only about that. It's I think that the reason why I remember that, normally I just like kind of like delete that person right away. But the reason why I kept talk with him for a little bit more is because I think that it was a time that when we were having disagreement and I was feeling a little bit like, okay, I can talk more about it and see like how the professional things about it. And then he just keeps using all the fancy words of science and everything. It was really
which is and insecurities, and they do exist. I just suddenly realizing like the last question here, and then insecurities, and that's such a big topic. But I don't know.
Maybe that's something we can get into. Get into next time.
Yeah. I mean, thank you guys so much just for sharing your experiences and about your relationship, though. I do think it takes a lot of just like bravery and coming and talking about it. And for anybody talking about their experiences, like we really are appreciative of that. So thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank
Our
you.
pleasure. I still think it's stupid because I like stupidity on my part. Like I'm just like walking around like I don't know what I'm doing. What's this? Let's try this thing.
Well, we appreciate that you came on the podcast. We really do.
I appreciate that you guys
that
invited
you
us.
stupidly stumbled upon little Day Night China.
Wee. Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, you guys.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.